is educational management. So, when we say educational management, it refers to the administration of the education system in which a group combines human and material resources to supervise, plan, strategize, and implement the structures to execute an education system. Education is the equipping of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, habits, and attitude with learning experiences. So, the education system is an ecosystem of professionals and educational institutions such as government, ministries, unions, statutory boards, agencies, and schools. The education system consists of political heads, principal, teaching staff, non teaching staff, administrative personnel, and other educational professionals working together to enrich and enhance. At all levels of the educational ecosystem, management is required. Management involves the planning, organizing, implementation, review, evaluation, and integration of an institution. And at this point, I'm going to call my group mates to discuss the next topic, the nature of theory. Thank you.
Good afternoon, classmates. Good morning, Prof. Amihan. My name is Faye Chavez, and today our group is going to present the different theory of educational management. My part is to discuss to everyone about the nature of theories, and the learning objective for this discussion is to be able to understand the different educational management models and its feature. So let's go ahead and look at these different models. So nature of theory, a single all-encompassing theory of educational management does not exist. This is reflected in part by the startling diversity of educational institutions, which range from modest rural primary schools to enormous universities and colleges. It also has to do with the variety of issues that arise in schools and colleges, each of which calls for a particular strategy and set of remedies. Above all, it reflects the complexity of social science and educational theory. In their quest to comprehend and manage educational institutions, students of educational management who turn to organizational theory for guidance will not find a single universally applicable theory, but rather a variety of theoretical approaches, each jealously guarded by a specific epistemic community. Described as jangling discord of various voices and conceptual pluralism. In describing behavior and occurrences in educational institution, each theory has something to offer. Whether stated directly or not, manager preferred perspective unavoidably influence or govern decision-making. So what are some of the major characteristics of theory? Theories tend to be normative, which means it reflects about the nature of educational institution and the behavior of individuals within them. The second one is theories tend to be selective or partial. They emphasize certain aspects of the institution at the expense of other elements. And finally, number three, theories of educational management are often based on or supported by observation of practice in educational institution. For this afternoon, I am going to discuss with you the models of educational management, and we have management to leadership models. So for management, they are called formal. For leadership, they are managerial. For collegial, in management, for leadership, it is participative. Political in management, transactional in leadership. Subjective in management, postmodern in leadership. Ambiguity in management, contingency in leadership. And finally, we have cultural in management. It is called moral in leadership. What I'm going to discuss to you is the pictures or the description of the management models. Let's start with the formal models. The first formal model serves as a catch-all for a variety of related but distinct methodologies. These theories emphasize the social and structural components of organization, hence the term formal. Formal models presuppose that organization a hierarchical structure where managers employ rational strategy to achieve predetermined objectives. Heads are responsible to sponsoring bodies of the operation of the organization and have formal authority within the organization. This reflects, not reflects, to me, I can connect this to the Department of Education, where there's a secretary and there is a regional supervisor, and then we have the district supervisor, and then we have principals, and then teachers. So what are the features of the formal models? They tend to treat organization as system, just like the school systems. Number two, give prominence to the official structure of the organization. Number three, the official structure of the organization to tend to be hierarchical. Yes, just like what I've said, there is the secretary, regional, district, and then we have principals, and in the school they have the department heads and so on and so forth. Number four, schools as goal-seeking organizations. Five, assume that managerial decisions are made through irrational process. And the last one, the authority of leaders are products of their official positions. Any question about the formal models? Okay, if none, we're going to go ahead to the next one, which we call collegial models. All theories that highlight power and decision-making should be distributed among some or all members of the organization are considered collegial models. Collegial models presuppose that organizations establish policy and make choices through a dialogue that result in agreement. Members of the organization who are believed to share common view of the institution objectives may hold some of all the power in the organization. If I'm going to choose between formal and collegial, I'm going to choose collegial. Why? Let's look at the feature of the collegial. They are strongly normative in orientation, which means that each member of the organization has something to say about the goals and the progress of the organization. Collegial models seem to be particularly appropriate for organizations such as schools and colleges that have significant numbers of professional staff. Collegial models assume a common set of values held by members of the organizations. The size of decision-making group is an important element in collegial management. And the fifth one, collegial models assume that decisions are reached by consensus. This is the best part of collegial models, the fifth one. Any question? None? So let's go ahead to the third one, which is the political models. Political theories support views that view decision-making as a negotiation process. Analysis focuses on how influence and power are distributed within organization, as well as how different interest groups barter and negotiate. According to Bush, conflict is seen as an endemic part of organization, and management efforts are focused on controlling political behavior. I don't like the political models if it will be employed in schools because it's so political. When it is political, there is nothing good about it. No, there is, but more of sip method. Okay. So what are the features of the political models? They tend to focus on group activity rather than the institution as a whole. Political models are concerned with interest and interest groups. Political models stress the prevalence of conflict in organization. Political models assume that the goals of organization are unstable, ambiguous, and contested. Number five, as noted above, decision within political arenas emerge after a complex process of bargaining and negotiation. The concept of power is central to all political theories. There's no good in political models. Let's go ahead to the subjective if you have no question. Subjective models focus on individual within organization rather than the total institution or its subunits. These perspectives suggest that each person has a subjective and selective perception of the organization. Events and situations have different meanings for the various participants in institution. Organizations are portrayed as complex units, which reflect the numerous meanings and perception of all the people within them. By the word subjective, it's kind of focuses on its individual. This kind of model will bring an organization like really weak because it will the head will be considering or the leader of the organization will be considering each and every one in the organization, which we know that we cannot please everybody. So what are the features of the subjective model? They focus on the beliefs and perception of individual members of organization rather than institutional level of interest groups. Subjective models are concerned with the meaning placed on events by people in organization. The different meanings placed on a situation by the various participants are products of their values, background, and experience. Subjective models treat structure as a product of human interaction rather than something that is fixed or predetermined. Subjective approaches emphasize the significance of individual purposes and deny the existence of organizational goals. If there's one that I like in the subjective models, it's the one that says it's the number 4. Subjective models treat structure as a product of human interaction. Um, I can connect this to school, that sometimes principals or other leaders should not be focusing sometimes on goals, but rather how the teachers or faculty interact with each other towards attaining that goal. So I guess that is an important aspect in decision making. Let's go ahead to the fifth one, which is the ambiguity models. By the name itself, it's so unclear. So anyway, ambiguity models highlight the unpredictable nature of organization. This theory presupposes that organizational goals are challenging and that organizations have trouble setting priorities. Of course, by the name itself, it's so unclear. So what are some of the feature of the ambiguity models? There are a lot, actually. There's a lack of clarity about goals of the organization. Number one is like, there's no more clarity. It's so unclear. Ambiguity models assume that organizations have problematic technology in that their process are not properly understood. Ambiguity theorists argue that organizations are characterized by fragmentation. Within ambiguity models, organizational structure is regarded as problematic. It's gonna be always problematic because it's unclear. Ambiguity models tend to be particularly appropriate for professional client-serving organization. Ambiguity theorists emphasize that there is a fluid participation in the management of organization. A further source of ambiguity is provided by the signals emanating from the organization environment. Ambiguity theorists emphasize the prevalence of unplanned decision, and finally, ambiguity models stress the advantages of decentralization. I guess it's the only one that is positive for me, the last one. Any question with the ambiguity? We are now going to talk about the cultural models. Cultural models emphasize the informal aspect of organization rather than their social elements. They focus on the values, beliefs, and norms of individual in the organization and how this individual perception coalesce into shared organizational meanings. Cultural models are manifested by symbols and rituals rather than through the formal structure of the organization. Cultural models and subjective models are kind of the same. It considers individuality, and when it comes to that, I believe organization, like what I've said earlier, it's so weak because we cannot please everyone in an organization. What are the features of the cultural models? It focuses on the values and beliefs of members of the organization. Number two, the cultural model focuses on the notion of a single or dominant culture in organization, but this does not necessarily mean that individual values are always in harmony with one another. Organizational culture emphasizes the development of shared norms and meanings. And number four, these group norms sometimes allow the development of a monoculture in a school meaning shared throughout They state the way we do things around here. Thank you very much for your undivided attention. We are now going to go ahead and listen to the next presenter.
Hi, today I will be discussing function theory. Functionalist theory focuses on how the universal education serves the need of the society. Functionalists view education with its role in conveying basic knowledge to the next generation. They are concerned with the way education system meets the needs of a society and how it achieves order and stability. It emphasizes social equilibrium wherein each aspect of the society depends on each other. Thus, a society is a system that functions as an interrelated part. Hence, if one part changes, it impacts the society as a whole. If disruption happens in the order and flow of the system, the society must adjust to achieve the state of balance. They also believe that education provides unity and togetherness and has a positive impact on the society. They also believe that education prepares people for the work environment in later life and it teaches important skills. Functionalism is founded by French sociologist Émile Durkheim. He characterizes schools as socialization agencies that teach children how to get along with others and prepare them for adult economic roles. He argued that education was to bring people together to achieve social solidarity and that school or education should provide the necessary skills needed in the workplace. Given this argument, think about how are these or what are these skills being taught at school. Hence, socialization involves learning the culture, the norms, and values of society as a whole. Another proponent of functionalism is Talcott Parsons. He argued that education serves as an agent of secondary socialization by teaching the value of achievement and meritocracy based on universalistic standards. Meritocracy is a system where individuals achieve good grades or reward because of their own effort and ability. Think about how school teaches this student or the children the value of achievement. In most Asian cultures, the value of achievement greatly impacts on how they can be successful in life. How do schools do this? In special education in the US, each state has academic standards to follow. Students with IEP still need to adhere and be tested as mandated by these standards. So functionalist states that education has two kinds of function, manifest functions and latent functions. So manifest functions composed of socialization, transmission of culture, social control, social placement, and cultural innovation. Social control is an effective agent of socialization where it uses rewards or sanctions, where it encourages you to behave in a particular way. As a special education teacher, I use a reward system, positive behavior intervention system with my students. In this way, my student will be able to show unexpected behavior if in and outside of the classroom. I usually have each student has a bucket on the board or a token board on their desk where I put stickers, and at the end of the week, they will get a reward from our treasure box. The contents of the treasure box are the things that the parents donated for the class. I also have a calm down area wherein they can have a timeout whenever they feel that they are in the red zone of regulation or whenever they feel angry, frustrated, or sad. In this area, they can do breathing exercises and some sensory materials that they can hold into in order to calm down. As functionalists view education with its role in conveying the basic knowledge to the next generation, how does school fulfill these needs? Through socialization and social control. And how does socialization and social control happens in school? What is the practice in school? The school setting introduces the students to social networks that eventually will help them find jobs after completing their degree or schooling. Nowadays, social media such as Facebook and LinkedIn plays a major network connection among college and graduate schools. Thus, their education provides them a social placement where they can move closer to careers that they will give that will give them financial freedom and stability. Well, beginning at preschool, students are taught various roles in the society that extend beyond the school setting. For instance, when my daughter was in preschool, their school taught them the significance of voting. As young as they are exposed to the process of voting from giving out campaign materials, which are from recycled materials, campaign speeches, and even had an ink on their young fingers to mark that they have chosen their school and class representatives. I believe that it is a good practice to instill the right to vote as a citizen of the country. In the latent function, it has courtship, social network, group work, creation of generation gap, political and social integration. In the latent function, this is where the students make connections through social media, build their ability to work in small group, which teaches them to become resilient, which is a skill that will be needed in the workplace once they complete schooling. In conclusion, functionalism has impact on education, transmission of knowledge and teaching technique and technical skills. In this way, the school is expected to teach the core values, the rules and law of the society. The second one is social control. Students should behave according to certain principles. The learning goes beyond socialization. Third one is sorting or social placement. Sorting and social placement classifies students based on their merit. Schools identify students on the basis of their standardized scores, where these students can be placed in a gifted program, accelerated program, or could be in special program for those with special needs. The last one is networking. This allows personal connection, an opportunity for students to build social relationships with other members of the society. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Janet and I will be reporting on the relevance of theory to good practice. The learning objectives are determine the connection between practice and theory and to identify the significance of theory to good practice. I'll start with a simple quote from Copeland et al., 2002, page 75. It is wishful thinking to assume that experience alone will teach leaders everything they need to know. So, how do we define theories in practice? Theories are academic models or framework that are developed to help explain or predict certain phenomena or important events. They are generally discipline specific and often build upon or even contradict one another. Practice, on the other hand, describes the application of knowledge or skills in a given situation. It might involve describing experiences you've had, explaining the way you've created or designed something, or imagining what might happen in a real life situation. Now, the connection between practice and theory are very important because it demonstrates your ability to use evidence to increase your understanding of key concepts, justify your decision making, and inform future practice. The strength of this theory practice connection also contributes to the evidence of your critical thinking and growth. Ultimately, linking theory and practice shows that you understand the connection between what you are learning at university and how that knowledge is applied in the real world. One example I can think of, as teachers, we think of what different teaching strategies would be effective in certain group of students. And the theory we've learned in uni are the foundation knowledge that we use in making decisions. Moreover, theory serves to provide a rationale in decision making. As teachers, we are managers of our classroom. A certain managerial activity is enhanced by an explicit knowledge of the theoretical framework, and it underpins practice in educational institutions. In as a daily practice, teachers decide just randomly, and we sometimes think it's common sense. However, such apparently pragmatic decisions are often based on implicit theories. We are just not aware of it. When a teacher or a manager takes a decision, it reacts in that person's view of the organization. Such views or preconceptions are colored by experience and by the attitudes by that experience. These attitudes take on the character of frames of reference or theories which inevitably influence the decision making process. Now let's talk about the three main arguments to support the view that managers have much to learn from an appreciation of theory, provided that it's grounded firmly. The realities of practice are the following. First, reliance on facts as the sole guide to action is unsatisfactory. Why? Because all evidence requires interpretation. Theory provides mental models. It provides that interpretation needed to help in understanding the nature and effects of good practice. Second, dependence on personal experience in interpreting facts and making decision is narrow because it discard the knowledge of others. And finally, experience may be particularly unhelpful as the sole guide to action when the practitioner begins to operate in a different context. Well, for number three, it's not really disregarding experience as a guide. It's just that sometimes we need theory and experience to guide us in making decisions. Now, of course, theory is useful only so long as it has relevance to practice and education. According to Hoyle, he distinguishes between theory for understanding and theory for practice. While both are potentially valuable, the latter, which is theory for practice, is more significant for managers in education specifically. The relevance of theory should be judged by the extent to which it informs managerial action and contributes to the resolution of practical problems in schools and colleges. To conclude, theory and practice should be interwoven. They are connected in all aspects. And for this reason, it is useful to think of the process as braiding a rope where there are two aspects that are continually connected together. I hope you learned something from my report. Thank you so much for listening.